the song, I'll bring the tears. You bring the song, I'll bring the tears. I'm gonna pack my bags because I'm going on a 3-day retreat. It's like a nature themed retreat. Gonna prep like a little cordial to bring as well. Like I foraged some mushrooms. I foraged like this mushroom called birch polypore, and gonna mix that with ginger and turmeric and then a bit of honey, and I'm gonna make a little cordial to bring as well. I'm really excited. I'm trying not to have many expectations rather than like, yeah, just having expectations and getting disappointed or not being open to stuff. It's also raining right now, and I think we're going to spend a good bit of time outdoors, but I don't really mind. I also think like if you're going to live in Ireland or a wet country, like it's probably a great idea to get like used to the rain and get out there when it's raining as well. Obviously not if you're like being blown away by the wind, but I'm trying to like embrace all sorts of weather, and I think like this event is a great opportunity to do that. And yeah, I don't really mind the rain anyway.
What's wrong? Are you ready to go?
She's still doing her dog.
Well, I'll see you guys later. I need to go to work, and then I'm gonna go training. You got Maya. She doesn't give a shit.
I also made some fruit leather from blackberries I foraged, and then I had some like bananas that were nearly going off, and then I added some foraged nettle seeds as well. So I'm gonna bring this as well. I'm gonna put some in a jar to share because there's like encouragement to bring things to share, so I think it'll be really nice. I love the idea of bringing something that you can share with other people. Oh, it's just nice. I just love that. I am also going to pack some I'm also going to pack some art stuff because we're going to do like a headpiece, so I'm going to bring some paint. And then I'm gonna bring some beads. I'm so rushing for time. Like, I always do this to myself. Rob, if you wanna put your beads, you can put them in with me here. Sorry?
What beads?
Yes, those beads. There was a retreat being held by this lovely forger that I look up to so much in Wicklow. Her name is Courtney, also known by Hips and Haws, but she was holding a 3-day retreat, and I was like, I definitely need to go. It was nature related and it just resonated with me so much. I had the most like magical and gorgeous 3 days. Every time when I think about it still, like I hold it so dearly in my heart, the time that I spend with everybody. So it was nature themed, and like in the retreat, like there was a focus on connecting to our wild selves, connecting to the environment around us. And I also just felt like we were just living in community, getting to know people. The practices that we did, they brought up a lot for me. But I hold them so close and dear to my heart. It was like a place where I felt like I could just feel and be myself, and just actually show up as myself, because I often find that hard, especially when I'm like hanging out with loads of people. Just being myself is so hard. But I loved waking up and having food with everybody in the morning. It really felt like we were living in community, and I felt like because there were so many of us, there was like a lot of times when it was like noisy and you could just hear all the noise, and I loved that. But then I also loved the quiet times. And there was a time when I was sitting at the table, everybody was sitting at the table, we were having dinner, and there was just like a couple of seconds where it was silent, but you could just hear the fork going from the plate to everybody's mouth. And it was just, I felt at home. I felt this feeling of like home. Yeah, it was such a simple but beautiful moment. And yeah, there really is something to be said about like spending time with people like that. I really, really needed that. I also loved like the fun and playfulness of it. Like we were doing practices where I feel like I could like bring out my inner child and be playful and explore nature and dance, because we were dancing and singing, and I really felt like I really enjoyed the playfulness of it. It brought up barriers for me, of course, because like being with so many people and doing those things can be really uncomfortable, but I really enjoyed just breaking those barriers for myself and getting closer and closer to who I am, and finding it easier to express that when I'm around other people. And like even now when I'm thinking back on the 3 days, I find myself smiling and daydreaming about the time that I spent there with everybody. It was exactly what I needed. And I feel so inspired. I feel so inspired, and I feel like there was people there that shared their gifts, and I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of that. But you know, everybody had their own gifts. Everybody had their own things to share with others, and that was really, really inspiring for me. And it also made me realize this thing, and I've seen it coming up, but it's like everybody had like something, everybody had something special about them that only they had, and they probably got to it in their own way. I often find myself trying to like find myself in like the same using like the same equation that like everybody else is using, where I don't think that that's where like I don't think that that's where you find yourself. I really think that it's like being inspired by people, and but also just then doing your own thing and finding your own way of doing things. I think that that's how you get to like the bottom of who you truly are. Because if I'm to like go off and do exactly what like those people that inspired me are doing, it wouldn't be me. So that's something that I also realized during this weekend, is like bring in whatever gifts you have. Is like, it's really your own journey that you have to go through. And you know, if you're like trying to do it exactly the way somebody else did it, it's just not going to bring you to who you truly are. I think we can be like inspired, but trying to find our own way of doing things still, you know? Oh yeah, and I also didn't have signal. So there was no signal because it was quite remote. It was like in a lodge, and that was nice. That was so needed. But I do find it easy enough to not be on my phone when I'm with other people. I think it's harder to like not be on my phone when I'm by myself, but when I'm with other people, it's actually easy. And when there's like activities going on, But I really needed that because, like, yeah, scrolling. I've been so terrible for it, honestly. Probably like most of us, but yeah, I've been really struggling with scrolling. So I think having time away like that where it forces me to, like, there's literally no signal, there's nothing I can do, it's really good for me. And I think it made it even more special, you know, that we couldn't be on our phones. It was really like you sort of had to immerse yourself in the experience. And it was such a remote and natural location that it just made sense. It was, yeah, it was really gorgeous. And I feel like I could just go on and on about, like, the whole experience, but I think, to put it simply, my heart just feels so full after spending that time with everybody. And, like, we did shamanic drumming for the first time. That was like a new thing for me. There was like a shamanic drumming session, and that brought up a lot for me. But although their practices, like connecting to ourselves, brought up so much for me. But to put it simply, I think I'm just going to hold it so dear to my heart, and the whole experience really inspired me. And it really made me realize as well what's important more. Another really special thing that happened, I cried because so many of those practices just, they always make me cry. And one of the women there that was guiding that practice was like, your tears are needed here. I felt so seen. Because usually people get so uncomfortable around, like, crying, I find. Like, I don't mind crying. I feel like crying has been my friend from such a young age, and I would find myself crying in public, like, just keeping to myself, but just letting the tears flow out. And I find crying such a validating thing as well. Like, I feel like sometimes I find it hard to validate my own feelings and what's going on inside because it's just, like, internal. But when I'm crying, it feels like there's literally like an external, it's something external that I can see. It's like there's tears flowing down my face, I can feel it, and I feel like it's a way for me to, like, validate my own feelings. And then also, of course, like, crying releases, I think it's oxytocin, and it makes you feel better basically after you cry. But I found a lot that, like, even in these, like, healing spaces where, like, crying should be welcomed, people get really uncomfortable. It was really special to hear that, and it made me feel so seen to hear that your tears are needed. I'm just going to hold that so close and dear to my heart. Your tears are needed. Yeah, I think moving forward I feel inspired. I feel so inspired to, like, sing and dance and let myself be immersed in, like, my creativity and in what feels good and close and dear to my heart, and to be more myself. And if like that's such a gorgeous thing to get from a retreat. And yeah, I'm so grateful, and it was such a special like experience for me. I had a moment of wanting to isolate myself, to retreat to the room and stay away. I find it so hard to take up space. I don't like being inconvenient, so I sat in my tears. I let the water from the shower hug my skin. I deserve to take up space, I deserve to feel, I deserve to be. I managed to bring myself to a place where I could be visible again, where I could expose my being imperfectly, where I could take up space. I had a moment of isolation, but I managed to get out of it before it consumed me.